I should have known that morning would change everything when I woke up to 13 missed calls from my boss. But hindsight is cruel like that. It shows you all the red flags you ignored while running headfirst into disaster. My name is Kang Mi-ho, and I'm about to spill coffee on the most dangerous man in Seoul. I was already 20 minutes late to the emergency meeting when I burst through the revolving doors of Zenith Entertainment, my laptop bag slipping off my shoulder and my iced Americano clutched precariously in one hand. The lobby was unusually crowded for 8 a.m., filled with nervous-looking employees whispering in clusters. Did you hear? The new CEO arrived early. I heard he fired 3 managers in New York just for being late to a conference call. My friend says his pheromones are so strong, 2 Omegas fainted when he walked past them at the airport. I rolled my eyes. Office gossip about alphas was always so dramatic. As a beta, I'd never understood the obsession with pheromones and biological hierarchies. I just wanted to do my design work and go home to my tiny apartment and my cat. The elevator doors were closing as I sprinted toward them. Wait, hold the door, I called out, squeezing through the gap just as they began to shut. That's when it happened. I collided with something solid. No, someone solid. My coffee cup flew from my hand in what felt like slow motion, the lid popping off midair. Dark liquid arced through the air in a perfect, devastating trajectory, splashing across an expensive white dress shirt and charcoal suit jacket. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I didn't see. The words died in my throat as I looked up. And up. The man towering over me was absolutely stunning in the most terrifying way possible. Sharp jawline. Perfectly styled black hair. Eyes so dark they looked like they could see straight through to your soul. But it was the intensity of his gaze that made my breath catch. He was staring at me like I was the only person in the world, like I'd just done something far more significant than ruin his clearly expensive suit. The elevator was deadly silent. I became aware of 4 other people pressed against the walls, their faces pale with fear. An Omega woman in the corner looked like she might cry. I'll pay for the dry cleaning, I stammered, grabbing napkins from my bag and reaching toward his chest before realizing how inappropriate that was. My hand froze midair. Or replacement. I'll replace the whole suit. I'm so sorry, mister. Yoon Ji-hyuk, he said quietly, his voice deep and smooth like dark chocolate. I'm the new CEO. My stomach dropped to the basement. Of course he was. Of course I'd just assaulted the one person in the building who could fire me with a snap of his fingers. Mr. Yoon, I started, but he held up one hand. You're late to the emergency meeting, he observed, his expression unreadable. What's your name? Kang Mi-ho, sir. I'm a graphic designer in the marketing department. I waited for the inevitable dismissal, mentally calculating how much I had in savings and whether my landlord would let me pay rent late. But he didn't fire me. Instead, he did something far more unsettling. He leaned closer, so close I could smell his cologne, something expensive and woodsy. His eyes narrowed slightly, studying my face with an intensity that made heat creep up my neck. Interesting, he murmured, almost to himself. Sir? I asked nervously. You don't react to my pheromones at all. It wasn't a question, more like he was confirming something he'd suspected. I blinked, confused. I'm a beta, sir. We don't really react to those things. Something flickered across his face. Surprise? Relief? Before I could identify it, his expression smoothed back into professional coldness. The elevator dinged, announcing we'd reached the 15th floor. The meeting is on 20, he said. You'll ride up with me. The rest of you are dismissed. The other employees practically fled, leaving me alone with him in the suddenly too small elevator. My heart was pounding so hard I was sure he could hear it. As the doors closed and we began ascending again, Yoon Ji-hyuk calmly removed his ruined jacket and began unbuttoning his coffee-stained shirt. My eyes widened and I immediately turned around, facing the elevator wall. What are you doing? I squeaked. I'm not walking into my first official meeting looking like this, he replied matter-of-factly. I heard the rustle of fabric and tried very hard not to imagine what was happening behind me. There's a spare shirt in my briefcase. Unless you'd prefer I remain half-dressed. No. I mean, please get dressed, sir. Was that a low chuckle I heard? No, impossible. The legendary ice-cold CEO didn't laugh. You can turn around now, Kang Miho. I slowly turned to find him in a fresh white shirt, looking infuriatingly perfect while I resembled something the cat dragged in. He was still watching me with that unsettling intensity. Sir, about the suit. Forget about it, he interrupted. But you owe me something else. My mouth went dry. What? Information. Why were you late? And don't lie, I can't stand liars. The elevator dinged for the 20th floor. Through the glass doors, I could see the entire executive team waiting in the conference room, including my terrified-looking boss. My cat was sick. I had to take him to the emergency vet, I admitted, figuring honesty was better than making up an excuse. I know it sounds stupid, but he's all I have and... What's his name? I blinked. Sorry. Your cat. What's his name? Kimchi, I said slowly, wondering if this was some kind of test. Because he's orange and spicy. The elevator doors opened. Yoon Ji-hyuk's lips curved into the smallest hint of a smile, so brief I might have imagined it. After the meeting, bring me your vet bill. The company will reimburse you. He stepped out, then glanced back. And Kang Miho? Try not to spill anything else on me. I only brought 3 spare shirts. He walked away, leaving me standing there confused, relieved, and inexplicably warm. I had no idea that the most powerful alpha in Seoul had just decided I was his. Yoon Ji-hyuk was everywhere, and I was starting to think I was losing my mind. It started innocently enough, or so I thought. The day after the coffee incident, I found a premium cat food basket on my desk with a note in elegant handwriting. For Kimchi. Hope he's feeling better. Why did... My coworker Soo-hyun nearly fainted when she saw it. Mihoya, do you know how much this brand costs? This is like 300,000 won worth of cat food. Why is the CEO sending you gifts? It's not a gift, I insisted, though my face was burning. It's just, he's being nice because I told him about Kimchi being sick. The Yoon Ji-hyuk? Being nice. Soo-hyun looked at me like I'd grown a second head. Girl, he fired someone yesterday for breathing too loudly in a meeting. He doesn't do nice. I tried to brush it off, but then strange things kept happening. On Tuesday, I was working late on a logo redesign when someone knocked on my cubicle wall. I looked up to find the CEO himself standing there in his perfectly tailored suit, loosened tie suggesting he'd been working late too. Mr. Yoon. I jumped up so fast I knocked over my coffee, thankfully an empty cup this time. Is there something I can help you with? I was reviewing the marketing materials. Your design work is impressive, he said, his dark eyes fixed on my computer screen. Especially the color theory. Where did you study? Just online courses, sir. I couldn't afford design school. Something flickered in his expression. Self-taught. Even more impressive. He paused, then added almost casually, it's late. Have you eaten? My stomach chose that moment to growl loudly. I hadn't eaten since the convenience store kimbap at lunch. I was going to grab something on the way home. There's a good restaurant near here. Join me. It wasn't a request. 20 minutes later, I found myself sitting across from Yoon Ji-hyuk in an expensive-looking private room at a Korean barbecue restaurant, watching him grill meat with surprising expertise. You don't have to do this, sir, I said awkwardly, unsure where to look. I mean, buying me dinner because I spilled coffee on you seems backwards. I'm not doing this because of the coffee, he replied, placing a perfectly cooked piece of beef on my plate. I'm doing this because you interest me. I nearly choked. I interest you? You're the first person in years who's treated me like a normal human being instead of either an alpha to submit to or a CEO to fear. He met my eyes across the table. It's refreshing. The way he looked at me made something flutter dangerously in my chest. I quickly shoved the beef in my mouth to avoid responding. But that was just the beginning. On Wednesday, he somehow knew my coffee order and had it delivered to my desk, iced Americano, extra shot, light ice. On Thursday, I found him in the break room at exactly the time I took my afternoon coffee break. On Friday, his driver, coincidentally, offered me a ride home because it was raining and I didn't have an umbrella. By Monday of the following week, even I couldn't deny the pattern. He's stalking you, Soo-hyun declared during lunch, watching as Yoon Ji-hyuk walked past our table in the cafeteria for the 3rd time. His eyes flickered to me each time. That's stalking, Miho. Hot, rich, Powerful stalking but still stalking. Don't be ridiculous, I muttered, though my heart was racing. He's the CEO. He's just being friendly. Friendly? Mihoya, he transferred 2 people out of your department last week just so your desk would have a better view. The window seat you're in now? Someone else had that for 5 years. I thought about the mysterious transfers, about how my workload had somehow become lighter, about how I kept finding my favorite snacks appearing in the break room. That's just coincidence. And I suppose it's also coincidence that he personally approved your raise? A 30% raise, Miho. For a junior designer. When there's a company-wide hiring freeze. My chopsticks clattered to the table. What? Soo-hyun showed me her phone, an internal memo about my salary adjustment, signed by Yoon Ji-hyuk himself with a note. Exceptional talent should be compensated accordingly. I stood up abruptly. I need to talk to him. I marched straight to the executive floor, past his shocked secretary, and knocked firmly on his office door. Come in, his deep voice called. I entered to find him behind a massive desk, reviewing documents. He looked up, and his expression shifted from surprise to something warmer. Miho, what a pleasant surprise. Why are you doing this? I demanded, closing the door behind me. The gifts, the raise, the everything. Why are you following me around? Why are you always wherever I am? He stood slowly, walking around his desk with predatory grace. You want honesty? Yes. Because I can't stop thinking about you. He stopped a few feet away, close enough that I could smell his cologne. Because for the first time in my life, I'm around someone whose presence doesn't suffocate me. Because when I'm near you, I can finally breathe. My heart was pounding so hard I could barely think. Mr. Yoon. Ji-hyuk, he corrected softly. When we're alone, call me Ji-hyuk. This is inappropriate, I whispered, even as my body betrayed me by staying rooted to the spot. You're my boss. You're an alpha. You're engaged. That engagement is a business arrangement I never agreed to, he cut in, his voice hardening at the mention of it. My father made that deal without my consent. But still, tell me you don't feel this too. He took another step closer. Tell me your heart doesn't race when I'm near. Tell me you haven't noticed how I can't seem to stay away from you. Tell me and I'll stop. I'll transfer you to another department if that's what you want. Just tell me honestly. I opened my mouth to lie, to do the sensible thing and shut this down before it destroyed both our lives. But looking into those intense dark eyes, feeling the warmth radiating from his body, remembering every small kindness and heated glance over the past 2 weeks, I couldn't. I can't tell you that, I admitted in a whisper. His eyes blazed with something fierce and possessive. Then let me court you properly. Let me show you that what I feel isn't just alpha attraction or boss favoritism. Let me prove that you're special, Kang Miho. Before I could respond, his phone buzzed. He glanced at it and his expression darkened immediately. She's here, he muttered. Who? The office door burst open without warning. A beautiful woman in a designer dress stood there, her omega pheromones so strong even I could sense them. Her eyes were fixed on Ji-hyuk with obsessive intensity before sliding to me with pure venom. Ji-hyuk Kappa, she purred. Who is this? Yoon Ji-hyuk's hand found mine, his fingers interlacing with my own in a clear statement. Seo Yuna, he said coldly. Meet Kang Miho, the person I've been telling my father about. Her perfect face twisted with rage, and I realized with sinking dread that my quiet life was officially over. The smell of expensive perfume mixed with omega pheromones was suffocating, and I was pretty sure Seo Yuna was about to murder me with her Hermes handbag. This is the beta? Her voice dripped with disdain as she looked me up and down like I was something unpleasant she'd stepped in. Ji-hyuk Kappa, this is what you've been wasting your time on? Ji-hyuk's hand tightened around mine, his thumb brushing reassuringly across my knuckles. Yuna, you have no right to barge into my office unannounced. We've discussed this. No right. She laughed, the sound sharp and brittle. I'm your fiancé. I have every right to know who this nobody is and why you're holding his hand like some lovesick teenager. I tried to pull my hand away, but Ji-hyuk held firm. My face was burning with embarrassment and fear. This was Seo Yuna, daughter of one of Korea's most powerful Omega families, heiress to a pharmaceutical empire, and according to office gossip, completely obsessed with the man currently standing beside me. You're my father's choice, not mine, Ji-hyuk said coldly. I've made my position clear. The engagement contract can be dissolved. Dissolved? Yuna's eyes flashed dangerously. She took a step toward us and I instinctively moved back. Do you have any idea what you're saying? Our families have been planning this alliance for 3 years. My father has already invested millions in the merger. You can't just throw that away for him. The way she said, him, made me feel smaller than I'd ever felt in my life. I can and I will, Ji-hyuk replied, his voice like steel. Now leave my office before I have security escort you out. Yuna's expression shifted from rage to something calculating and cruel. She looked directly at me, her lips curving into a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Of course, Appa. I'll leave. She adjusted her handbag delicately. But Miho SSI, perhaps we could have coffee sometime? Just us. I'd love to get to know the person who's caught my fiancé's attention. Every instinct screamed that this was a trap, but before I could respond, Ji-hyuk answered for me. No. Stay away from him, Yuna. I'm warning you. Warning me. She laughed again, that brittle, dangerous sound. How romantic. You've never been this protective of anyone before. Her eyes locked onto mine, and I saw the promise of violence there. I'll see you around, Miho SSI. Seoul is such a small city after all. She left in a cloud of expensive perfume and barely contained fury, slamming the door hard enough to rattle the paintings on the walls. I finally pulled my hand free from Ji-hyuk's grasp, my whole body trembling. What did you just do? Do you have any idea how powerful her family is? She could destroy my career, my life. She won't touch you, Ji-hyuk said firmly, but I saw worry flicker across his face. I'll make sure of it. You can't protect me from everything. I was practically yelling now, all the stress of the past weeks exploding out of me. I'm nobody, Ji-hyuk. Just a beta designer who can barely afford his rent. She's Seo Yuna. She could snap her fingers and I'd disappear. Then I'll make you somebody, he said quietly, stepping closer. I'll give you everything. I don't want your money or your protection. Tears were burning in my eyes now. I just wanted to do my job and live my life. But you've made that impossible now. I ran from his office, ignoring him calling my name. I couldn't breathe. The walls were closing in. I took the stairs instead of the elevator, bursting out into the underground parking garage. That's where she was waiting. Seo Yuna leaned against a black Mercedes, examining her perfectly manicured nails. When she saw me, that cold smile returned. Running away already? How predictable. I should have turned around and gone back inside. Instead, pride made me walk forward. What do you want? To give you some friendly advice. Beta to beta. Oh wait, I'm not a beta, am I? She pushed off from the car, circling me like a predator. Let me tell you something about Alpha-Omega bonds. They're written in our biology, in our very DNA. Ji-hyuk thinks he wants you now because you're novel, different. But eventually, his alpha instincts will demand an omega. Someone who can satisfy him completely, give him strong alpha children, match his social standing. I never asked for any of this. But you didn't say no, did you? She stopped directly in front of me, so close I could see the cold calculation in her eyes. You let him hold your hand. You let him court you knowing he was engaged. What does that make you, Kang Miho? The words hit like physical blows because part of me wondered if she was right. Stay away from him, Yuna continued, her voice dropping to something almost gentle, which was somehow more terrifying. Walk away now while you still can. Because if you don't... She pulled out her phone and showed me a photo. My stomach dropped. It was a picture of my apartment building, my address clearly visible. Another swipe, a photo of Kimchi through my window. That's a lovely cat you have, she said softly. Orange tabbies are so fragile, aren't they? It would be such a tragedy if something happened to him. Rage surged through me, overwhelming the fear. You're threatening my cat? I'm protecting what's mine. Her mask finally dropped, showing raw desperation underneath the polished exterior. I've loved Ji-hyuk since we were teenagers. I've waited years for him to come back from America. I've perfected myself, made myself worthy of him. I will not lose him to some ordinary beta who happened to spill coffee at the right moment. Then maybe you should ask yourself why he's running from you, I shot back, surprised by my own courage. Love isn't about ownership or perfection. It's about what? Your pathetic little romance. She stepped back, composing herself. You have 1 week, Miho SSI. 1 week to quit your job and disappear from Ji-hyuk's life. If you don't, I'll make sure you regret it. And I don't just mean your cat. She got into her Mercedes and drove away, leaving me standing alone in the dim parking garage, shaking with anger and terror. My phone buzzed. A text from Ji-hyuk. Where are you? Are you okay? Please talk to me. I stared at the message, Yuna's threats echoing in my mind. The smart thing would be to run, to protect myself and Kimchi, to go back to my quiet, invisible life. But when I closed my eyes, I saw Ji-hyuk smile when he talked about my designs. I felt his hand in mine, warm and solid. I heard his voice. You're special, Kang Miho. For the first time in my life, someone saw me. Really saw me. Was I brave enough to fight for that? My phone buzzed again. This time, a different message from an unknown number. 6 days left. Choose wisely. I looked up at the security camera in the corner of the garage, wondering if Ji-hyuk was watching the footage, if he knew what had just happened. Then I typed out a response to his message, my hands trembling. We need to talk. Tomorrow. Somewhere private. If Seo Yuna wanted a fight, she was about to learn that even betas had claws. I was kissing Yoon Ji-hyuk in his car, and I still couldn't figure out how we'd gotten here. 12 hours earlier, I'd been terrified, planning to end whatever this dangerous thing between us was. But now his hands were in my hair, his lips moving against mine with desperate hunger, and every rational thought had evaporated from my brain. Let me back up. That morning, I'd arrived at the address Ji-hyuk sent me, a luxury penthouse in Gangnam that apparently he kept as a private office away from the company. My hands were sweating as I rode the elevator up, rehearsing the speech I'd prepared. This can't continue. Yuna threatened me. It's too dangerous. We should stop before someone gets hurt. Simple. Final. Ji-hyuk opened the door before I could knock, like he'd been waiting right there. He looked different. No suit jacket, white shirt rolled up to his elbows, hair slightly messy like he'd been running his hands through it. More human. More devastating. Thank you for coming, he said quietly, stepping aside to let me in. The penthouse was stunning. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Seoul, minimalist furniture, shelves lined with books. But I barely noticed the decor because Ji-hyuk was looking at me like I was the only thing in the room that mattered. Yuna threatened you yesterday, he said immediately. It wasn't a question. I saw the parking garage footage. I saw everything. My chest tightened. Then you know why I can't. I fired her family's liaison this morning, he interrupted, moving closer. I've instructed legal to begin dissolving the engagement contract. I've also assigned a security detail to watch your apartment and placed Yuna under surveillance for the threat against Kimchi. I stared at him, shocked. You did what? I'm not letting her hurt you, Miho. I told you, I protect what's mine. I'm not yours, I said weakly, but we both heard the lie in my voice. Aren't you? He closed the distance between us, stopping just inches away. Close enough that I could feel the heat radiating from his body. Look me in the eyes and tell me you don't feel this connection. Tell me you don't think about me every moment we're apart. Tell me your heart isn't racing right now. Damn him for being right. Damn my heart for betraying me. It doesn't matter what I feel, I said, forcing myself to maintain eye contact. Your father will never accept me. Yuna's family will retaliate. The company's shareholders will. Let me worry about all of that. His hand came up slowly, giving me time to pull away, before gently cupping my cheek. You just have to answer one question. Do you want this? Do you want me? His thumb brushed across my cheekbone, and I felt my resolve crumbling like sand. I'm scared, I admitted in a whisper. I've never been special to anyone before. I don't know how to be the person you think I am. You already are that person. His voice was rough with emotion. You're kind without expecting anything in return. You're talented without being arrogant. You see me as just Ji-hyuk, not as an alpha or a CO or a heir. Do you have any idea how rare that is? But I'm just. If you say, just a beta, one more time, I'm going to kiss you to shut you up, he warned, his eyes darkening. My breath caught. You can't just. His lips crashed against mine, swallowing the rest of my protest. I'd been kissed before, awkward, fumbling encounters that left me feeling nothing. This was different. This was fire and hunger and need. His hand slid to the back of my neck, angling my head to deepen the kiss, and I heard myself make a sound I didn't recognize. When we finally broke apart, both breathing hard, his forehead rested against mine. Tell me to stop, he murmured against my lips. Tell me you don't want this and I'll let you go. I'll transfer you to a different company with a recommendation that'll guarantee you any job you want. You'll never have to see me again. It was the out I'd come here looking for. The safe choice. The smart choice. I don't want you to stop, I heard myself say instead. The sound he made was almost a growl. Then he was kissing me again, walking me backwards until my back hit the wall. His body pressed against mine, solid and warm, and I forgot every reason this was a terrible idea. Miho, he breathed against my neck, his lips trailing fire across my skin. I'm going to court you properly. I'm going to take you on dates. I'm going to show everyone that you're mine. Ji-hyuk? His name came out as a gasp as his teeth grazed my pulse point. The company, people will talk. Let them talk. He pulled back to look at me, his eyes fierce. I spent 10 years in America being the perfect heir, the obedient son, the alpha everyone expected me to be. I'm done living for other people's expectations. What about your father? The engagement? My father can disown me for all I care. The engagement was never valid. I never signed a contract. His thumb traced my lower lip and I shivered. As for Yuna, I've already contacted her father. I made it very clear that any retaliation against you would result in me pulling all Yoon family investments from their pharmaceutical company. That's about 40 billion won they can't afford to lose. I was overwhelmed by how much he'd already done, how many bridges he was willing to burn. But why risk everything for me? Because in a world that told me my worth was in my alpha bloodline and business success, you saw me for who I actually am. He kissed me again, softer this time. Because when I'm with you, I finally feel like I can breathe. Because you're my peace in the chaos, Miho. And I'm not letting that go without a fight. We talked for hours after that. About his childhood, about the pressure of being a Yoon, about my dreams beyond just being a designer. He made us lunch, and I discovered the powerful Seo couldn't cook to save his life, burning the ramen until I took over with a laugh. I'm pathetic, he'd groaned, watching me salvage our meal. You're human, I'd corrected, and the way he looked at me then made my heart skip. Now it was evening, and he was driving me home, my hand in his across the console. We'd stopped at a red light when he pulled me into that kiss, unable to wait another moment. When we finally broke apart, both flushed and breathless, I saw movement in my peripheral vision. A black Mercedes was parked across the street. Through the tinted window, I could just make out a familiar silhouette. Yuna was watching us. And she was smiling.